The Demonic Virtue by Niall R. Piper II. Chapter 12. The black and red rocks mixed into a swirl of sand and stone at the base of the mountain. The water rushed up to its sides, only to be blasted apart and return to the water whence it came. Upon the side of the mountain were sloping cuts, ledges, and detailed patterns on the cliffside. Several crustaceans had tried to make their way up from the relentlessly stirring water. Over time, one crab emerged with a smaller shell to reach the first ledge, where he could safely stay removed from the chaos below. Time continued to pass by, and more crabs made their ways up the mountain. Nights and days passed without much care for the crabs' ventures. Time did not wait for them. They simply carried on, climbing higher and higher. Eventually, several crabs had bravely removed themselves of even the smallest mist of ocean water below. Several of these crabs had developed longer legs and more flexible joints, and made trips up the mountain several times. And it was under the lighted sky of a sunset that one crab had made the final trip a reality. A single long-legged crab crawled up the cliffside to rest on the ledge in front of the cave's entrance. The orange sunset cast beams of wild colors across its shiny, wet back. It stared down into the darkness of the lair. Its tall antenna-like eyes blinked and its claws rose over its head. After a brief moment, it scuttled sideways into the darkness. The crab crawled across the wet stone, stopping to hear for a moment rustling in the cave's depths. Curious, the creature blinked once more and stopped to listen again. There was a sound from deep in the tunnel. The crab waited. The puddles of water under its legs rested. A lizard perked its head up from behind a rock. The crab remained still. A lizard bobbed its head down behind the rock and then back up again. Assuming safety, the lizard scurried past the crab. Interrupting his patience, the shelled creature took pursuit. Beginning to gain some ground on the anxious lizard, the crab reached quickly for its tail. But in an instant, the crab was taken from its chase. A large, worn hand stretched from the black cave and wrapped its long fingers around the shell. It lifted the crab upward. The captured creature wretchedly wiggled its appendages, but could not release itself. Inverted, the black-eyed antennas looked upon a gruesomely tense face. Several large teeth protruded forth into the light of the sunset. Thin lips wrapped around the grooves of shadowy white teeth, and a warm breath blurred its vision. Before it could focus again on the evil snarling mouth before it, the grasp of death closed in. The hand squeezed and crushed the shell as its chunky syrup-like inside spilled out through a set of heavy red fingers. Flames erupted into the lifeless remains, then extinguished. Addifer dropped the mess of smoldering life at a pool by his feet. Blood and bile mixed with the water-like oil. He stared with black eyes at the burning flames of the sun sinking into the waves. Comforted within the cave's shadows, he cursed the star. Remembering the white spark, he began to despise this star. The only light he felt solace in embracing was that which he produced from his own fury. The life was springing forth from the water because of this star, and somewhere the Creator was watching. The only thing to calm his nerves from the thoughts of suffering was the sweet smell of charred crab. Chapter 13. After some time, Addifer crawled to the cave's entrance. He passed the time by watching the sky rotate. From dark to white, the rock rolled on around the star. There were instants where he thought perhaps this world was better than heaven. One night, while watching the moon, he spotted a flame in the sky. Like the sound of great thunder, a cloud burst into existence to release a falling flame. A giant ball of fire shot through the dusk toward the distant mountains. A tail of heavy white smoke trailed. It appeared to hang in the sky for a while before it shot down behind the black mountains resting on the horizon. There was not enough time to investigate the incident. The planet shook, and the rocky mountain he called his abode shook as well. The entire sky lit of a magnificent copper spray. A burst of silent cloud shot across the ocean from the distant rocks to the mountain base below, rustling the waters along the way. The cave trembled and the cracks shot through its being, dropping rocks and dust from its ceiling and sides. A boulder from above Addifer broke loose. Catching the loose rock from his peripherals, he turned to watch the heavy object break loose of the mountain's hold. In his last-ditch effort and reflex, he jumped into the cave to dodge the crumbling mountain piece. Addifer landed hard against the rock bed, scraping and cutting open the flesh of his arm. He yelled out in pain and reached to cover the wound with his other hand. He stopped short of sitting in agony and tried to stand up, but the earth shook once more to bring him back down. This fall left his neck whiplashed as his head pounded on a sharp rock that fractured his skull. The quaking halted for a minute. Seriously injured, his broken head raised itself to spot the ocean from between the wall and the large boulder that blocked the cavern's entrance. Through a set of delirious eyes, he saw a flash of light. A wave of heat scorched the cavern walls. The blast torched Addifer, and the following burst of energy lifted his body from the rubble and sent it deep into the tunnel. The unconscious corpse beat and bruised itself as it tumbled toward a large opening where he once slept and dreamt. He tumbled below onto the floor's lair. Addifer slammed across the floor like a wild bowling ball, wreaking havoc against the rock walls. He tried to steady himself as the mountain quaked epically. Observing from outside the blackened sky, he watched the unstable dirt cave sink slowly back into the ocean. Addifer was buried alive once more in a rock coffin, unconscious and unable to affect his surroundings. A rock from the ceiling smacked hard against a stone near his shattered head. This was enough to shake him awake. Half incoherent and miserable, he was consumed by pain. He looked through bloody red eyes to lift the palm of his hand. Two broken fingers moved opposite ways from which the joints should have allowed. The strength to summon the flame was not far away. A deep fury filled his heart center. With ragenous passion, his hands were ablaze. The fire was glowing on the black mirror of his eyes. His brows furrowed in a moment of silent concentration. He could not control his circumstances, but he could create fire. A truth deep within his mind told him that this fire was his, and nobody, not even the Creator, could take this away from him. This has been chapter 12 and 13 of The Demonic Virtue by Niall R. Piper II. Tune in next week for chapter 14 of The Demonic Virtue by Niall R. Piper II.